My name is Philippe. I'm a philosopher, and I'm interested in what architecture can tell us about our lifestyles. I'll take you to explore some of the most remarkable habitats on the planet in order to discover their meaning and to share their riches. Today, my travels take me to Peru, to the middle of Lake Titicaca. I've always dreamed of seeing this mythical place, the cradle of the Inca civilization. Covering 8,300 square kilometers and perched at 3,800 meters above sea level, it is located in the Andes between Peru and Bolivia. This island sea has served as a refuge for one of the most ancient peoples we can trace to this region, the Uros. Chased from the lake shores by conquerors such as the Aymaras in the 12th century, then the Incas, and finally the Spanish in the 17th century, most of the Uros were finally assimilated into Aymara culture and remained on dry land. But some, to avoid a life of slavery, took refuge on one of the artificial islands in the middle of the lake. They're the ones I want to meet. I want to find out the singular lifestyle of these inhabitants and their masterpieces of floating architecture. But above all, I want to understand the reasons that keep them apart from civilization and its riches. After more than 1 hour in a boat, I meet Aurelio on Titino, one of the 36 islands still inhabited. Great! Hello, how are you? Hello, Aurelio. Thanks for inviting me. This is incredible.
We live on this island. It looks small, but it's big. We've lived here for 15 years. Welcome to the Uros island of Titino.
Thank you.
There are 6 families living here. That's 23 people, including the children. This is how we live.
What are we walking on?
You're walking on totora.
What is totora?
It's a plant that grows everywhere on the lake. You see over there? That plant in the distance is totora. We cut it down and bring it here. And that's what you're walking on. Nice, isn't it?
It's quite funny. And it's wild to think we're floating here.
Yes, we're floating. It moves, see?
Yes, you can see it's moving, especially at the edges. How do you live on this soft ground, which ripples at the water's edge and is no more than 350 square meters? For centuries, the Uros have chosen to live here, mainly from fishing and hunting wild birds. You must explain to me, Aurelio, because I really don't get it. How does this float? And more to the point, how does it hold together?
It's because it's made of totoro and kili. It has a floating thickness of 2.5 meters. Look, Philippe, this is kili. The totoro roots are in the kili. Here you see, that's what floats. The island is made up of 3 pieces of kili. We must tie the 3 pieces together with a rope and put a wooden stake at each corner. We begin by tying it like this. Here and here, like this. And here. And then we finish up. Now it looks like just one platform.
So the kili makes up the base which enables you to anchor the island. But how do you lay out the totora?
The first week, we bring the first layer. This is a maraya, which is an assembly of totora. We pull out 10 marayas, like this. Then we cross them with...
I think that's an interesting thing.
This one piece will make 52 layers.
Watch on mobile devices or the big screen. All for free. No subscription required.
10 more marayas. 1, 2, 3, up to 10 marayas. And the third week, we begin again on the other side. It takes 3 weeks' work.
And is the kili heavy enough to prevent the island from drifting?
The kili floats, so we need a safety system. And that's our anchor. The anchorage is the most important. That way the islands stay permanently in one spot. Without the anchors, the island could drift with the wind, perhaps as far as Bolivia, who knows. That's why we've put 7 anchorage points around the island.
I see you have solar panels. I didn't expect to see any here. What do you use them for?
The solar panels give us some light in the evening. Before, we'd use candles, but that was very dangerous for us. 5 or 6 years ago, all the houses burned down. The whole island burned. We didn't buy them. They were a gift. That's why we have solar panels. Sit down there. I'll sit here. This is Olga.
Hello, Olga.
You see, Philippe, this is our job. We must ready our nets to catch a few fish.
Olga, do you disentangle nets every day?
Yes, Philippe. We must sort out our nets every day. And the children help.
It's not easy. You have to have the knack.
You're doing very well.
I'm not a natural, but I apply myself.
I'll help you a bit.
Here on the island, you're very isolated. Do you see this as a constraint or as a form of freedom?
It was our grandparents who chose this place and who created this island and lived here. Nobody has authority over us. Our only constraints are wind and water. They're the only ones. It can happen that the wind or the swell suddenly takes a piece of the island. That does sometimes worry us. But when the lake is calm, we really feel at peace.
Being on this island is to experience a kind of timelessness. The simplicity of the elements gives us a feeling of eternity. The vast lake that carries us, the mountains in the distance that circle the horizon, and the protective sky form a whole within which we feel sheltered and in our place. The totora directly determines where their island sits. This is found near a zone of 25,000 hectares, covered with the rushes that occupy most of the bay.
We're on the path. This is the route.
We can see all the places you've cut the totora.
Yes, it's already growing again. We cut all along here.
Further up?
Yes.
Do you come here to cut totora every day?
No. But right now it's the rainy season. The island becomes very humid. We can't even sit down to disentangle our nets. So we come and cut the totora every other week. And if it's too wet, we come at weekly intervals. We constantly lay down a new carpet, add layers and layers. We have to cut all the time. And we also need it for the roof and the walls. We cut for 3 or 4 hours. It isn't easy. And you can eat it too. It's called chulo.
Okay.
It's very tender.
Tastes good?
Not bad at all. What fascinates me is that totora is a plant that is central to your life. It's the island floor, the walls and the roofs of your houses. It's your main activity, and it's also part of your diet.
If it wasn't for totora, we'd have no home. We'd have no island. Totora is the most important thing. We'll transport this as a mariah, not on the boat. We'll tie it with the rope and drag it.
The harvested roots will be used to maintain the island. In fact, an island has a shelf life of no more than 40 years and requires a heavy-duty annual service. For the Uros, totora is much more than just a plant. It's a way of life at the heart of a natural ecosystem upon which they are totally dependent. Without it, not only would their habitat disappear, but also their territory, their know-how, and their culture.
Vamos. Ya.
The Uros are part and parcel of an inhabited area where man and nature are not in opposition but are harmoniously balanced. Early in the morning, everyone is already busy smoking fish caught during the night. It is placed between 2 levels of stones, heated by totora, obviously. Fishing is becoming more and more complex on the lake, and the fish are disappearing. The pollution caused by the mining industry is to blame, of course. But the main reason is the fact that hundreds of thousands of farmers have now turned to fishing in the bay, depriving the Uros of their means of subsistence. Just like every week, Aurelia and Olga go to the village of Liachan to trade their fish for vegetables or for a little money with which to buy gas. On the lake shore, we find architecture typical of the adobe-style houses, that is, made of bricks of dried clay. It is an effective ally against the cold wind from the Altiplano, the high Andean plateau. This is Liachon's market square?
Yes, this is the square in Lachon. This is where we'll barter.
It's hard to believe that this is market day, as the villagers go about their business with calm and serenity, addressing us wordlessly to buy food.
Philip, you can give the lady her fish.
How many? 8? 8?
For a kilo, you must give 8 fish.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
You can give her one more.
And a little one.
Thank you. You must always give a little more. That's what business is about.
How is the bartering going?
We've traded for beans, potatoes, and chuño, which is dried potatoes. The bartering is going well today. Philip, you can give the lady one more fish.
I give her one more?
Yes.
That one? Okay, that one was too small. Have you ever thought of leaving your island to come and live here?
I'd like to live in an adobe house. Because on the Uros Islands, it's cold, especially at night. It's not like that in an adobe house. It's warmer. That's why I'd like to live here.
If you came to live here, your whole lifestyle would be transformed.
I could change and look after a patch of land. I could learn to work, to grow things. I could change. I could change my clothes too. Instead of my hat, I could wear a montera or a jacket like those ladies who came. Yes, I could adapt.
Today, your island costs you nothing. But if you wanted to move to dry land, you'd have to buy some property, and that can be expensive.
That's right. The land is very expensive. Here, 1 square meter costs about 40 euros, maybe more. We don't have all that money to buy land. That's how it is.
Jose is a historian. He lives in the region on the lake shore, and for several years he's been researching the Uros. He is the memory of this people, whose culture is, as yet, little known.
The little we know about the Uros is a mixture of myth and legend. There's a myth that tells of how they were the first men created by Viracocha, the god who created life on the Altiplano, and that following a flood, they were the only survivors this god saved. It's interesting to know where they really come from. And then we have this word Uro, which means morning, as well as men of the dawn, or men who don't want to live in civilization, who want to be as free as the beasts in the field.
Beyond the architectural and climatic constraints, we have a wonderful feeling of freedom when we're on this island.
This freedom that you talk about, we feel it too. And I'd like it to continue, as it symbolizes life on the Altiplano. To us, the rain, the hail, and the extreme cold are not punishments, but blessings of the Pachamama, and we're used to living with them. These elements don't scare us. On the contrary, we feel that they accompany us like brothers throughout our lives, like divinities that watch over us.
And who is the Pachamama?
For us, the Pachamama is Mother Earth, nature. Pacha, time, space, place. Mama, generous, good, constant. She is the most important divinity in Andean theology.
For me, discovering the island of Titino was simply amazing. But you live here. Have you always known it?
Yes, it was a surprise for us too to learn that the island of Titino still existed. It's only been a decade since we began to talk about these Uros who lived on Titino in the true Euro tradition.
But how is it possible that it's only been known for 10 years?
Although they have always left their island for bartering, they would take care that no one approached them and lived there on their own, totally and deliberately isolated. They are closer to the tradition of the Uros and live in harmony with the lake, venerating the lake divinity as part of their religion, and by adopting the ancestral heritage of respect for nature and respect for everyone. This gives us food for thought. How did our ancestors take care of nature, and how do the Uros continue today, despite the globalization we hear about, to fight to preserve nature?
Respect for nature is at the heart of the Uros culture. Surprisingly, their island has no foundation. It floats delicately like a leaf laid on the lake. This is a totally opposite rationale to the deep rootedness that characterizes the way we live. The lake is a land that the Uros cannot possess, nor would want to. Here, water and wind are the real masters of the house. All the available materials on the island are recycled and reused. Totora, of course, but also wood and nails.
Philippe, can you hold this? You mustn't let it move.
As there is little, nothing is thrown away. Everything is precious and carefully reused to rebuild their dwelling. Today, it's the kitchen's turn.
Let's go to the kitchen.
Okay, we'll go to the kitchen.
First, we'll take off the roof. Then we'll dismantle the structure. Then we'll put this wall in place. And then the roof that Thomas is finishing.
Do you often have to destroy your kitchen like this?
We have to do it every 4 or 5 years, because after a while, it lets in the wind. And this kitchen is too big anyway. A smaller kitchen would be warmer. That's why we're dismantling it.
That means that you are constantly rebuilding your homes.
You have to change your roof every 3 or 4 months. The wall will last a year. Come on, let's go.
Excuse us, we're preparing your new kitchen.
Great.
They're used to it. We can take away the walls and they won't move.
Yes, they're used to it. It's not a problem. Yes, here.
Okay.
That can still be used. Yes, we'll dismantle it piece by piece. That's used for cooking on the stove. We can use that too as a fishing rod or to make another structure.
Okay, go.
Okay.
Like this, no? Oh, sorry. Over here?
Now the roof. Go on, Philippe.
Allez, go!
Right then.
Yeah.
That looks good.
Terrific. The new kitchen is ready.
There you are in your new kitchen. Aurelio, this is the first house I've ever built.
Philippe, now we've finished. We'll serve up a good meal because we've built a new kitchen. That is our custom.
At the end of my trip, the remarkable way the Uros inhabit the world makes me wonder. Like Sisyphus pushing his boulder daily, the Uros are condemned to constantly cut the totora to rebuild their island. Otherwise, it would disappear, and they with it. Some might see this as proof of their tragic destiny, but I'd say they were wrong. With this repeated action, the Uros are investing their habitat with meaning. By renouncing terra firma, they have found the space to be free. My name's Philippe. I'm a philosopher, and I'm interested in what architecture can tell us about our lifestyles. I'll take you to explore some of the most remarkable habitats on the planet in order to discover their meaning and to share their riches. Tokyo, a megalopolis of 38 million inhabitants, is often described as chaotic and bewildering. The city indeed appears to be a complex web of ultra-modern buildings and small private houses assembled together like pieces of Lego with no apparent consistency. Twice destroyed in 1923 after a terrible earthquake, then in 1945 after the American bombardments, Tokyo has risen from its ashes each time, and since then seems to be perpetually reinventing itself in order to satisfy its insatiable need for expansion. With its 13,500 inhabitants per square meter, Tokyo is one of the most densely populated cities in the world. Lack of space is a permanent problem. To deal with this, the city landscape has undergone a new transformation with the appearance of microhomes. These ultra-small houses that rival one another in innovative design are popping up on the slightest available plot of land, however small. It's these microhomes that offer an alternative way of living in the city that I've come here to discover. In the heart of the Shibuya district, one of the busiest in Tokyo, stands a surprising house, nestled between a car park and a building. It's that of Satoshi and his family. Satoshi, hello.
Hello, Philippe.
This facade is unbelievable. It's barely the width of my arms.
It's very small, but it's much wider on the side. Please, come in.
Thank you. Wow.
Welcome.
It's quite surprising because when you see the facade, you get the impression that the house is extremely narrow, whereas it's actually quite spacious inside. The living room and a garden even. I didn't expect that.
It's very small, but in addition to this floor, there's also a basement and an upper floor. The place I'm most proud of is the bathroom upstairs.
Thank you. Wow.
This room is my pride and joy.
Really? Why the bathroom? That's a bit surprising.
This bathtub is like an outside bath. It has a link to the outside. It's bright and sunny here in the morning. I take a hot bath here, and then I'm ready for my work day. In the evening, I relax here. I can listen to music, birds singing, the murmur of a river, and I forget everything else. It's a wonderful place.
So this is the bedroom. The bed's gigantic. It takes up the entire room.
My daughter, my wife, and I all sleep together in this room. In Japan, when the children are little, we all sleep together. That's a tradition.
Does that mean she doesn't have her own room?
Miroku's room is in the basement. For the time being, that's where she plays her piano and trumpet and does her homework. That's what it's used for. When she gets older, she can sleep there.
I'm amazed by the shape of your house. I find it incredible that houses can be built in Tokyo on such narrow strips of land.
The plot measures 59 square meters, but because it's what's called a flag lot, we had to build a house on an even smaller surface, 25 square meters. If the land had had a better shape, the price would have been much higher. This land wasn't even for sale, but the owner agreed to divide it up and sell us this small plot. As a general rule, land such as this is passed down from generation to generation, and they are hard to come by in Shibuya. There haven't been any for sale here for the past 13 years.
When you were told that your house would have a floor surface of 25 square meters, did you imagine ever being able to live here?
At first, I thought we wouldn't be able to. But I changed my perspective. I thought of it not only as a surface, but as a space, a cube. So, even if the surface is small, by superimposing levels, like Lego pieces, we can obtain a 3-storied house, and the 25 square meters becomes 80 square meters.
With such narrow surfaces, everything needs to be very functional in order to save space, and yet you've built this house around these empty spaces, which is a bit contradictory.
For us, the house wasn't just somewhere to eat and sleep. Our idea was to combine beauty and functionality in order to fully enjoy life here. Shibuya is a recent district. It's very animated and noisy. It can be a bit stressful in certain areas, but then you come back here and it's peaceful. You can relax. We've managed to combine these two aspects, and for me, that's priceless.
For me, these microhouses act as switches. They enable us to connect to the urban energy, to receive its electricity, and at the same time, to disconnect from it when it becomes too intense for us.
Do you want some cookies? I'll heat up some milk for you. Would you like some coffee?
Oh, yes, please. It's not going to be easy. If not, tea'll be fine.
She's made herself comfortable. You have to press this button, the big one. She doesn't even budge. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So, if I'm not mistaken, this area is the kitchen, the dining room, and the living room all at the same time.
Yes, this is the kitchen, but we can conceal it behind these sliding panels. They hide the kitchen.
That's very practical. So when do you decide to open or close the panels?
When I have guests and the kitchen is a bit messy, I close the panels and you can't see anything.
In this way, with the kitchen closed off, the living room is more elegant and we can relax.
ここがすっきりしているのでくつろげるんですよね。みっちゃんどうですか？
How's it going?
お花が売れてる。
That's right.
This room is certainly very functional, but even so, wouldn't you prefer to live in a bigger space?
決してそうは思わないです。というのは、
No, not at all.
私の両親が住んで
My
いる
parents' house is a very old Japanese-style house.
部屋数が全部で
It has 13 rooms altogether.
私自身も子供の頃にその
When I was a child,
お家が
this big house used to scare me a bit,
あとなんて言うんでしょう、あまりにも使ってないお部屋がいっぱい
as a lot of the rooms weren't
自分
used.
自身どこにいていい
I couldn't really find my place there.
気持ちがあったりしたんですね。で、ここのお家は確かに小さいんですけども、
Our house is certainly much smaller,
の
but each room serves a function.
目があってそれ以外にも
Also, here, I'm surrounded by objects that are dear to me.
前に飼っていた猫ちゃんの写真
A photo of my cats,
作ってくれた
gifts that my daughter has made for me.
手作りのものであったり、そういう
The things I care about are all close to me.
狭いからこそこう
And because it's small, I can surround myself with these things and feel at ease.
リラックスできるんじゃないでしょうか。
Listening to you, it seems as if the house is really an extension of oneself, and that it's not so much the size that counts, but the way in which one feels connected to it.
アポロン
This strong bond with such a small space surprises me. While it's certainly the sign of a family well-being, it also represents a form of retreat, which is hard to understand. Doesn't the small size of these houses push one more towards escaping outside? How do you have any privacy in a space that's unavoidably shared by all? Particularly when you're a young couple, how do you live in this type of house? In the working-class district of Auto, rows and rows of these modern microhouses are clustered together on a small parcel of land. Nami and one of her friends are waiting for me on the doorstep of one of these houses. Nami lives in 60 square meters with her sister and parents. She agrees to show me how she reconciles this space and her need for privacy. Hello. I see you're enjoying the sunshine.
As it's a sunny day, it's nicer outside than inside. Would you like to come in?
Yes, thank you.
Please, come in.
Thanks.
Shall we go up?
Yes.
This is the ground floor, and this is the first floor. That's the kitchen. My bedroom's up here. This is my bedroom. There's not enough room for 2 people, so I'll let you go in.
Wow. It's tiny.
It's small, but I only use it as a place to sleep. When I'm at home, I'm usually in the living room, so it's no problem.
You're a young 28-year-old woman. You work, and yet you still live with your parents in a very small house. I have a hard time understanding how you live here.
In Japan, it's not unusual for young people in their 20s, like me, to still live with their parents until they get married, for example. I'm not an exception.
Don't you find it hard to live in such small spaces? A small bathroom, a small kitchen, a tiny bedroom?
No, I'm not often at home. I usually see my friends outside, for dinner, for example. I'm only at home for family meals and to sleep. That's what this space is used for. And I'm perfectly content with that.
There's still something that intrigues me. How do you have any privacy in such a confined space?
Well, you see your boyfriend outside rather than at home. You can go to a love hotel, for example. A lot of people live like this, I think. If you only have a shower at home and no bathtub, and you want to take a bath, you can go to the public baths. If you can't have a cat at home, you can go to the cat cafe and play with a cat. And if it's too small at home to read, you can go to a manga cafe. We get by like this. It's there.
Ah, that's it.
Yes, right there. These are mangas for girls, and those are for boys.
So these are for girls, and those mangas are for boys.
Over here, you can take a shower. This is a girls-only zone, pink. Here, you can read. Go on the internet. If you miss the last subway, you can also sleep here, freshen up, or take a shower. Well, I'm going to read my manga now.
Okay, bye. Leaving a house where space is lacking to go read in an even smaller space seems a bit absurd to me. But for €3 an hour, these manga cafes are crowded day and night and prove that the existence of these micro-houses is only possible because the city has been conceived as an extension of the home. The two are interdependent. One doesn't exist without the other. All the shops and services are in close proximity to the home. They're like an extension of it. The public squares act as the house's garden. The numerous restaurants replace the dining rooms, and the vending machines on every street corner are an annex of the refrigerator. With my eye more attuned now, I see that these microhouses are omnipresent. Faced with an urban scale of gigantic proportions and often uniform-style buildings, these tiny architectural objects manage to reintroduce a human dimension to the city. The urban space becomes, in a way, domesticated, which gives a playful, do-it-yourself air to the street. I have an appointment with the architect Manabu Naya, who built one of the smallest houses in Shibuya with a floor surface of just 16 square meters. I'm hoping he'll help me get a better understanding of Tokyo's urban organization, which reconciles these two antagonistic universes, the micro-home and gigantism. What fascinates me here in Tokyo is that no two houses are alike. They're all completely different in shape and size. It's hard to understand even how they've managed to be built. You sometimes get an impression of chaos.
After the Second World War, Japan was in ruins. There was almost no urban planning. But a lot of people from the provinces came to live in Tokyo. So it became a megalopolis, one of the biggest in the world. And as the price of land also shot up, people began to want to move out to the suburbs. But the commute into the city takes about an hour, or an hour and a half, just to get here. So traveling to work every day takes a long time. So people prefer to live in the city on small plots of land that belong to their family, for example, and they build vertical houses on them. There are a lot of houses of this type.
But how is it possible to find such small plots of land?
In Japan, the law requires the facade to be at least 2 meters wide in order to be able to construct. But it doesn't specify a minimum surface area. So we can find houses that have a floor surface of 15 square meters. In Tokyo, people generally want a floor surface of between 27 to 30 square meters. As a consequence, we have no other choice but to build vertically.
It's surprising to see all these gaps between the houses. In a city with such a space shortage, it seems to be a waste of precious square meters.
In Japan, to build a house in a residential area, the law requires there to be a minimum space of 50 centimeters between the houses. In that way, the air can circulate and some light can come in. Let's go and see the house that I built here.
That one?
Yes.
Wow.
It has 3 stories.
Yes, there are 3 windows.
I really wouldn't have thought it was possible to build on such a small surface.
The first time I came here to meet my client, I walked straight past it without noticing it. I turned back, and when I saw it, I was very surprised. It was so small I burst out laughing.
Shall we go in?
Yes.
This house, built over 3 stories, has 7 split levels which act as landings around a center staircase. It's very ingenious, but Manabu wants to take me directly out onto the roof terrace. Wow. It's amazing. Incredible. There's a great view on that side, too. What's surprising out on this terrace is that you realize just how small the buildable area is, whereas when you're inside the house, you completely forget it.
In architecture, there are all kinds of techniques, and it isn't just a question of calculation. In order to make a small space appear large, people need to have an impression of space. And that's what I've attempted to do here. When this house was finished and I came up here, I wasn't expecting to see such a skyline, because it's extremely rare in Tokyo. We're surrounded by tall buildings, and it's like we're on a plane in the middle of the city.
We can start cooking.
Micro house also means a micro barbecue, to which Satoshi has invited me. At the foot of the micro garden giving onto the sky, this is a special moment for Satoshi where he and his family can come together. It smells good. Wow, it's superb. Thank you. A piece of sausage. Great, thanks. Do you often have barbecues?
Yes.
Yes, we sometimes invite friends. That's right, her friends.
It's wonderful to be in the city and to be able to have a barbecue in your home. Oh, fava beans.
Hey, he handles the chopsticks well.
What's that?
That's fantastic. It's not easy to pick up fava beans with chopsticks.
In Japan, we practice using chopsticks with fava beans.
Yes, it takes practice.
I get the impression that your microhouse in the heart of Tokyo is like a case that protects what's most precious and important to you.
That's right. I wanted to create a space where my family could come together. In Japan, we have a saying that expresses this idea. Hare to ke. Ke designates the everyday. And when the everyday persists over time and tension builds up, we end up becoming polluted. To cleanse ourselves, we need a peaceful place. That's how I see this house. A peaceful place where we can feel relaxed and comfortable. A place where we're happy. That's the spirit of this house.
1, 2, 3, kanpai.
At the end of my trip, I've gained a wealth of information from these microhouses. Faced with a shortage of space in one of the world's biggest cities, they offer an interesting alternative between collective and private housing. But what I find most interesting is that they're the opposite of mass production, which has characterized the 20th century. These microhouses are above all cultural objects, made to measure for city dwellers who no longer want to suffer the stress and inconveniences of the big city, but want to take advantage of all the resources that city life has to offer.